Hey, a little bonus coverage for you now. So, unfortunately, I have to go out of town, so I'm not going to be able to work in the car. So I thought I'd go ahead and put together a video, a little short one, on the frame and show you what the chassis looks like. Last week, if you tuned in, or actually maybe 2 episodes back, if you tuned in, we lifted the car off the ground, rolled the chassis up from underneath it, and put the body back down and had it all braced up. This weekend, we went ahead and cut out all the floor pan, got everything prepped, and now the next thing to do is to put the floor pan in. But since I'm not gonna be able to work in the car and I'd like to keep some episodes coming out there, I want to show you. We're gonna do this one right now. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a tour of the chassis. So stay tuned for this. So for those of you who have been paying attention, we're restoring a 1956 Bel Air. So this is a Tri-5 Chevy 55, 6, 7. They're all essentially the same, particularly in the running gear. When you look at the greenhouse of these things, and they're all the same. A lot of the glass is the same, so the chassis is not much different. So let me show you what this chassis looks like. So this is the chassis of Christine. This is the original 1956 frame. I believe Christine was wrecked at some point. There's got some bad damage on the front here where this was kinked in, and it looks like they've splice welded something. And it looks like somebody also had Christine working at one point in time, because I believe at the far back there's a piece of angle iron that's on the back of the frame, and the only thing I can imagine is that at one point in time somebody had mounted a trailer hitch. So I can't imagine my hot rod towing a boat. But hey, somebody must have done it in its life. So I've had this car since 2005, and this is pretty much the it's more or less the way that it came when I got it, except there's a few things that I did to it. It has a 411 gear, and this is the I forget the first year it's like 1950 something through 1964, 63 GM, the nodular. It's an entire chunk that bolts in the front. It's got a 411 gear in it. I don't like it. I want to replace it with something in the 340s, 350s, 360s, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly what the gear ratios are that are available for that, but I have been looking online to see if I can find a used chunk to put in it. I still have the leaf spring set up. I don't plan on changing that. So in the back, I have the leaf springs, and in the front, we still have the original 2 A-frames, coil springs, and then these chassis have a suicide drag link. So the drag link on the car, the next vintage is they moved the drag link towards the front, but the way this works is we got the steering box, and the steering box turns the pitman arm, and it's got an idler arm, and this suicide drag link is in the back, and it turns the knuckles, the steering knuckles, the spindles, it turns them opposite. So one of the things you'll notice as you're looking at Christine's frame is I have disc brakes in the front. So a long time ago, when I bought Christine, she had the single mono-cylinder, master cylinder, and drum brakes in the front. When you stepped in the brake, the whole car just kind of lurched, and I didn't like that. So this is from CPP out of California, and this is one of these Resto Mod kits. It's made from other GM parts that are not particular to the 1956, but these are, I want to say that this is a metric setup. So metric, I used to race roundy round on dirt, and we used to race metric chassis a lot, which is like 1978 to 1986 or so. So these are metric calipers, these are metric spindles, except these are drop spindles. So I believe these are 2-inch drop spindles. When I first got the car and I wanted to lower its stance, it was high at the front, it was low in the back. I cut I cut the coil springs, but that's not a good idea. So these are actually these original springs, or the original spring ratio, and now I have drop spindles. So we've got it lowered 2 inches in the front. In the back, I had it lowered, and I used leaf spring shims to do that. So you can get these from Speedway, and I've got a 1-inch block on this side, and you'll notice on the other side I have a no-inch block. Well, I didn't realize it, but Christine was so rusty that the body was what I thought everything was square. I was compensating for the body being cockeyed up. I had to put a 1-inch block on one side and a no-inch block on the other side just to get the car to ride level. And now that I've taken it apart, I realize that that's got everything to do with all the corrosion and rust that was on the car. So now I think I'll be able to take that and I'll be able to square that up, because I'm going to have everything is going to be true and level. What else can we say about Christine's chassis? We had Flowmasters, and it's like, this is all gobbled up. This sounded good, and I'm sure that this is very old, but these Flowmasters and the dual exhaust, I'm going to have all this replaced. You see this frame, it's fully boxed, and I know that's different than a lot of them, like the 60s and 70s, like the Chevelles and the Cutlasses and the GTOs. They have a channel on both sides. Well, this frame is boxed. It's boxed on both sides, and that's kind of like the convertible chassis on the later models. But this one is boxed fully all the way. However, what it does not have, you'll notice that the transmission, it doesn't have a cross member that goes across in the middle to receive the transmission. So you'll notice the engine mounts and the transmission mounts. There's two mounts there that are at the back, at the front of the transmission, and then you've got two mounts that don't show up here, but they mount to the frame, and they basically bolt to the face of the engine block. They're not on here. The motor sits like this. So all of the engine mounts are here and here, and it's not like where on a small block Chevy or where they're typically underneath. There's two embossings on the bottom of the block. In fact, I'll go show you the block. Show you how that mounts. Forgive my mess, but there's a mount here and a mount there, and that's what mounts onto the frame. So let's get back to the chassis. I have the original ball steering box. It's manual. I'm thinking about upgrading to power steering. What else? I used to have those fancy, expensive polyester, whatever they call them, the bushings in the uppers and the lowers, and they just fell apart. So I'm back with regular Moog stock replacements, and it's been running fine like that for a long time. Let's see some other things that we can say about the chassis. So I've got there's some brackets here for my manual transmission. That's some of the clutch lever arms. It's there. What else? You'll notice I had a fuel pump and a fuel filter. This is the way it was originally set up when I bought the car, except that's not the original fuel pump. I had to change that fuel pump, and but it was all electric, and it's only electric. It's positive all the time, so that when the key is on, that pump is on. And it's really not the safest thing to do. So I don't think. What I liked about it is when you turn the key on, it would feed fuel to the motor, and the motor would allow the motor to fire right up. So I like that when you let the car sit and the float bowls go dry, you turn the key and just let the electric fuel pump fill up the float bowls, and then pump the pedal a couple times, and it'll start right up like it was yesterday, you know. So I like the electric pump setup. I don't think I'm going to go with fuel injection. I think I'm going to stick with my Holly. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But what I am planning on doing on the frame is I need to replace all this fuel line. I'm going to replace the brake line. Some of these brake lines are new. I replaced these brake lines maybe 10 years ago on the back axle. I replaced the brake line block. I replaced the hoses. I got all that up to date and new. But I don't remember noticing this. I don't remember. Somebody has whoever had the car before me must have broke this and then used a compression coupling on it, which is bad news. It's a no-no on brake lines. So I'm going to probably, even though those are relatively new, I'm probably going to replace all the brake lines all over again. I am most certainly going to replace this fuel line. That's just an El Cheapo aluminum fuel line. I don't know why it's set up the way that it is, but that's the way that it is. You'll notice, forgive all this rust, a lot of this is one of two things. It was one, when they sandblasted the car, they blasted a lot of this stuff, and I didn't bother putting any primer on this. But the other thing is, as I've been working on the car, I've been grinding a lot of steel. So there's a lot of steel that shrapnel that it just flies out. It's like dust, and that settles all over everything. And that's probably what a lot of this is. So I wouldn't really worry about that. I'm going to put new body mounts when I do it. So there's 1, 2 right at the forward part of the firewall. There's 1, 2 right underneath the kick panel. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath the front seat. There's 1, 2 underneath the back seat, and there's 1, 2 right in front of the axle. And then finally there's 1, 2 on the rear by the sail panel at the back of the trunk. Now if you watch my videos and you saw when I pull that body off, the body just came off. That's the rest of the body still sitting there, and look at this much Bondo. That's ridiculous, man. I don't know what they were trying to do with that. So, but anyway, what I'm going to do, what I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on taking this frame, after I get the floor pan in, before I put this frame back. When I did my Cutlass, I got a 71 Cutlass convertible. If you looked at some of my videos, I got, I think, episode 14, kind of features it a little bit, but episode 15.1 through 15.5 are all cruising the coast. And you can see the Cutlass throughout. But anyway, that Cutlass, when I did it, I took the chassis completely apart, took out every ball joint, every bushing, and I carted the frame over to a shop out here that does powder coating, and they blasted and they powder coated everything. I had the A-frames, the four-link, I had everything. I had the frame itself, everything was powder coated satin black, and it came out gorgeous. Well, Christine's a roller, the Cutlass is a roller. They're not show cars. They're not, I'm not putting this thing in the world of wheels. This thing won't be in a stadium and trying to earn a trophy. It's going to be, I'm going to be in the seat. I'm going to be driving it. We're going to be rolling with this thing. It's going to be out and about. So what I'm planning on doing with Christine's chassis is I'm planning on cleaning it up, painting it black, and it's going to be clean. But I'm not going to update anything here. I'm going to keep my leaf spring set up. I'm going to keep my disc brake set up. I might upgrade the power steering. I might have to change the steering box. I know the steering box got a little bit of slop in it. So I don't know. We'll see that. But I'm not going to do a whole lot. This is not going to be, a pro touring car. No, forget it. I'm not cutting this up. I'm a bit of a purist. I know it's a rough ride, but it's like when you're going Christine, you don't go for a ride. You go for a drive. And we're going to keep it that way. So listen, if you like the content of my channel, I would appreciate a subscription. Help me out there. And if you're liking the videos, please give us a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. I love the comments. I really do. It gives me energy. It keeps me moving forward. I appreciate that people tune in. I appreciate that people spend their time with me in the garage. And hey, live vicariously through me. Enjoy my misery, enjoy my victory, whichever, either way. So listen, hey, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, be safe.